So in the setup here, this might just be the camera angle. You correct me if I'm wrong, but it does look like your feet line is quite closed, chest line is quite closed, pelvic line is quite closed. So the way that we can represent that is I see quite a bit of your left shoulder, I see quite a bit of your left leg. And usually when that's the case, everything is going to be closed off. This can certainly help a golfer who is struggling to shallow the club in the golf swing or struggling to swing more from the inside. There's a lot of information out there that tells them that if you close things off, it'll help. Which that's not necessarily incorrect. That is certainly true. The problem is, what I have tend to notice over time is that when players close things off too much, they almost like band-aid the swing through the setup to allow them to swing from the inside, where they never end up actually making movement changes in the golf swing to help them get there instead. So yes, it helps you in the short term, but it actually creates a lower ceiling in the long term where it doesn't allow you to get much better. So believe it or not, we're going to keep an eye on this. We're going to put an alignment stick on the floor to make sure that our feet line is not closed off to that, as you can see here, right? And what we are going to do is we are going to work on actually trying to make sure that your feet line is more squared off. Now, in the short term, that does actually mean that it'll be harder to swing from the inside, but the swing changes that we are going to make are going to help you to get there on their own. So we're actually going to make a technical change within the movement pattern to help you get there, okay? So we're going to square off the feet. Now, in your backswing, what you're going to see is a couple little details here. The first things first, the thing that in my opinion, creates the most issue is the fact that there is a lot of elevation to your hand path in the backswing, not a lot of working around your body. Meaning, if you look at where your hands were when you started, and then you look at where the hands are now by basically what we would call left arm parallel, which is called position 3 in the golf swing. Okay, so when that left arm or that lead arm is parallel to the ground, your hands are still way out over your toes. Now, to me, this is already creating a limitation because now your hands are getting too disconnected and upright to where you're going to have to drastically reroute them in transition to try to make sure you can swing from the inside. And in order to reroute them, it prevents your body from being able to move well because you have to have so many aggressive things happening to the hands. And the more focus we have to put on the hands, usually that means the less focus we're able to put on the body. And so as we continue to go up, the arm structure ends up a little too upright for my liking. The club is very short and it's very laid off. You can see the left arm like above your shoulder plane here, and then your hands never really get very far behind you. So to me, this just looks like a very short, very restricted pattern with a lot of upright arm elevation in the backswing that is going to limit you in the long term. So what we want to do is we want to actually make sure that we can rotate better in our backswing and we can actually influence the hands more around your body. What that would do is, number one, it would lengthen your swing out, which in my opinion would actually be beneficial because that would get you the club head speed that you're lacking that you mentioned in regards to your driver and your irons not hitting them as far. But then number two, as we would do that, because we would get the hands working more around you, you would be in a much better loaded position at the top of the backswing where the arm structure would be certainly a little bit flatter, but the swing would also be longer and likely a little bit more on plane. And you would have a bigger turn to the pelvis. That would allow you to not only create speed, but it would allow you the ability to shallow the club a little bit more organically. Whereas from here, because everything is so upright and short, you have to reroute everything now in order to get the club coming down into a more shallow position, not to get too steep on the ball. And in order to do that, you have to really stall out the body to give time for the hands to reroute. So as soon as you get up near the top of the backswing, you're going to see this like drastic rerouting, right? Look at where the hands come and then look at where they go down and reroute on the way down. That kind of like aggressive rerouting to the hands just doesn't allow your body to move well in order to make sure that you can shallow the club. And then obviously from here now it's a very armsy golf swing. The club gets stuck from the inside because the body's just not moving very well, and then you're going to draw it too much, you're going to hit it heavy, all sorts of problems are going to happen. So of course, if you're committed to the long-term plan, I'm not saying that the backswing change is going to cure everything for you right away. But if we even want to start attacking how the body's moving through the ball, giving yourself the appropriate body movements, pressure shift, and all of that, and actually make some long-lasting changes, We have to square off the setup position, not to band-aid the golf swing. And then we actually have to work on loading better on the way back. And you can see it here as well, in the sense of as you start to take your setup, the first thing you're going to see is just a lot of leaning towards the target from the upper body, and then it kind of stays there. So by the time you get to the top of your backswing, you know, your head is leaning towards the target, upper body is leaning towards the target. And in that situation, you'll see a lot of elevation to the hands, and the arm structure just gets like very short and disconnected. So rather than doing that, I would love to see us create more turn to the pelvis, more turn to the chest, and really work on loading not only better, but instead of having this head leaning down and towards the golf ball, we're actually going to have this shoulder work more under the chin, and your head and your neck and your chest are actually going to feel like they're lining up a little bit more behind the golf ball. So not leaning towards it, but actually turning a little bit more behind it. And that's going to really help us to make sure that we are creating better structure to the body movements in the backswing, which is also going to influence the hand path differently in the backswing as well.